This is $5,000 in free flights and hotels in a mix of Europe and the UK. It was our first time traveling abroad together, and this trip encompasses flights going from the US to Europe, Europe to the UK, back and forth, and finally returning to America. We stayed in amazing properties that can be redeemed for through popular chain brands. I'll be going over all the specifics from which credit cards were used, exactly how many points were redeemed to make this trip possible, and most importantly, equip you with the knowledge and my experience of how you can do this too later on in this video. With that, let's commence our journey, and I'll see you on the other side. Starting off at a packed Priority Pass lounge at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, we got some food and drink whilst waiting to get into a full Capital One lounge, and after some meal and drink there, it was time to board our flight to Paris. Getting exit row seats provided better legroom than business class, I would argue, and before we knew it, we landed at France's Charles de Gaulle Airport, where after a quick immigration and baggage pickup, we went straight to the hotel to drop off our luggage and start seeing some sights around the city. Checking into the hotel, the room was a nice one, and definitely different in size than in the US. It had an extra level of chicness, especially with the benefit of us receiving the only room in the entire hotel with a balcony. Being in Paris over a few days, we got to see an assortment of different sights. From tourist attractions such as the Arc de Triomphe, the Eiffel Tower, the Palais Royal, the Louvre Museum, to more low-key gardens and places where you could just straight up stroll along, chill, and be more a part of the local culture. Time flew by, and we would be back in Paris for one more night, but for now, it was time to head from Paris to London. Departing at Charles de Gaulle and an early AM flight, we didn't hit up a lounge before departing to London, given the one we needed to get into was a shuttle away to a different area of the terminal. A 40-minute flight later, and we had made it to London. Taking the tube to the city from the airport, we headed to the hotel to both drop off our luggage and freshen up. It was a sub 10-minute walk from the train station and was a straight-to-the-point Hyatt place, which looked leagues more upscale than we have here for the same chain in the US. Our first stop was at the Shangri-La Hotel, located in the tallest building in the UK, known as The Shard. We had high tea, and they definitely didn't hold back with the aesthetic delicacies and showmanship with all of their drinks and dishes. It was my first real high tea and our first experience such as this. Given the timing of flying and the amount of sleep, it was good to know that everything in front of us was unlimited for both food and the various tea selections they had to offer. We discovered various parts of London and some specific locations we were looking forward to. From tourist sites to local ones, as well as some filming locations of our favorite TV shows, there was definitely a lot of variety. We were already heading back to Paris for our last day of our trip. At the London Heathrow Airport, LHR, we had a quick visit to the Plaza Premium Lounge where they had offerings congruent with an English breakfast. It was a quick 10 minutes in and out as we had to get to the other side of the terminal to catch our flight. Boarding our flight back and landing in Paris one more time, it was like deja vu with immigration and baggage claim. It was our first time in Paris and left the decision of where to stay on this last night open-ended until we essentially booked a hotel on the same day based on what we liked from the previous days we were in Paris. We chose an area with great food and close to a multitude of sites we were happy to be around. They allowed an early check-in, which was phenomenal. This allowed us to take full advantage of the entire day ahead. The room was great as the previous Best Western property from a few days ago. The opportunity to take a break and freshen up on a trip where travel is involved is definitely underrated and allows you to experience everything around you with a clearer lens. Given level of status with Best Western, the management wanted to appreciate us with some complimentary wine as well, which is a great touch, 100%. The next AM, we flew out of CDG and got to visit the lounge this time, which required a shuttle to get to. Definitely would account a solid 15 minutes each way for this if you choose. It was a learning experience for sure, where we probably never visit this lounge again, given there were no real food offerings and proper staffing solutions to provide ample answers. There are non-alcoholic beverages to go, where you can only get them complimentary with the appropriate level of entry criteria. We had this capability, yet it's definitely frustrating if you show up and feel blindsided, especially after paying a fee to get in, and that too if you're traveling through a shuttle to get to this lounge in the first place. We had the same exit row seats, which made the travel to and from Europe an easy, straight-to-the-point journey without much duress. Standard yet delicious snacks along the way, unlimited, and just like that, we were back in America. Here's all the numerical figures for these redemptions, as well as additional info and context I think is helpful if you're planning on doing the same. Starting off with the lounge accesses at the airport, there are two networks, if we call them as such. One is known as Priority Pass, the other one being the Capital One Lounge Network. With Priority Pass, there's around 1,400 plus lounges that you're able to get into, and this is a perk that's super common with the likes of cards such as the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the Amex Platinum, as well as the Capital One Venture X. When it comes to the Capital One lounges, there's 3 in potential scope, where at the time of this recording, 2 are actually open, one in Dallas Fort Worth Airport and the other one in IAD in Virginia. The third one's going to open at the Denver Airport with an expected opening date as TBD for now. Keeping things simple, you can access all the lounges we went to with just one credit card, such as the Capital One Venture X, because you're getting access to both the Priority Pass network as well as their own Capital One network. You have one additional benefit actually this way, because with the Priority Pass that's issued through Capital One, you have an unlimited guests policy. So let's say I have the Capital One Venture X and my Priority Pass card, I can bring an unlimited number of guests versus other cards where they limit you to yourself and up to 2 guests. A good example is that when the Chase Sapphire Reserve came out, that card had unlimited guests as well, but then they updated their policy a couple years out to my memory. So like this, at the time of this recording, you're good to have unlimited guests with the Capital One Venture X. If you don't want the Venture X, but you still want to get into the Capital One lounges, there's this information and more in this video I made over here with all 4 Capital One Venture cards explained. Let's move on to the flights. A quick preface is that when it comes to redeeming points and miles, whether it's stories shared online or in social circles, it's usually touted as the gold standard to say, look at how many thousands of dollars I got in value by redeeming these points for some business class flight or first class flight. But with this point, honestly, of what's cool about it, I beg to differ. I'm probably the #1 advocate for considering to redeem your points for economy flights and standard rooms and still getting a good bang for buck, because from a travel philosophy perspective, I believe that, hey, more experiences is better than, let's say, maybe fewer. Coming to our flights, it's going to be 4 of them, and they're all considered international as well as non-stop. The routes are as follows: from Dallas to Paris, Paris to London, London to Paris, Paris to Dallas. These flights were booked through a program known as Flying Blue, which encompasses Air France as well as KLM. This is a super versatile program where you can book with partners that come under that SkyTeam Alliance, which include both Air France and KLM, as well as notable partners such as Delta, as well as Virgin Atlantic. To accumulate these points, you can definitely travel and earn them, yet to book these flights, it was done 100% through transferring points from different credit cards. Flying Blue is a transfer partner with the likes of American Express, Capital One, Chase, even the Bilt MasterCard by Wells Fargo. So it's really easy, quote unquote, to transfer points from different cards you may have to this one program to make your redemption. The figures are as follows, with me being able to take advantage of a summer promo they had going on. The cost I'll cover is as if you were just traveling as one person, but since we did travel together, it's exactly what I'll mention times 2 if it were 2 people. From Dallas to Paris and Paris to Dallas, each way was only 15,000 points. Not 50, but 15. This totals as 30,000 miles for a round trip to go to Europe and back. This same flight in cash was $1,500, given the timing of summer as well as the immediacy to when that flight actually was. So in this situation, it's like getting $1,500 worth of travel for 30,000 miles. So if you look at the cents per point, it's like each mile is worth 5 pennies. So let's say you're getting 3 points back per dollar spent on a specific credit card. It's as if you're getting 15% cash return. Further context is that this usual flight is around 35,000 miles in that region to go non-stop, just one way. So instead of 70,000 miles for what it would be more normally, we got it for 30,000. From Paris to London, it was a mere 5,000 miles. On the way back from London to Paris, that 5,000 mile fare option was available as well. Yet given just the timing and the convenience we had around the situation, we wanted to choose a different flight time. So we ended up spending 9,500 miles for that leg back from London to Paris. I definitely think it's a cool perk of having points and miles to do this type of redemption, where let's say in cash, maybe that's $100 more to take the same flight to go from point A to point B, but at a different time in the day. It's nice to afford the convenience through using points and miles. There are taxes and fees that we needed to pay with cash out of pocket, where the miles don't count towards these costs. They're respectively as follows. And all of these figures are in US dollars. $85.60 to go from Dallas to Paris. For the legs from Paris to London, London to Paris, each of them were $39.20 per person. And finally, from Paris back to Dallas, it was $164.50. The total cash spent was $328.50, and miles used was 44,500 miles. If this was all booked in cash, it'd be around $1,750. So when we subtract that from the taxes and fees, and then take our miles divided by how much was spent, you're basically getting that how much is each mile worth, and overall it's around 2.5 cents per point. I think this is a pretty great redemption, especially for an economy flight, and most importantly, we didn't need to jump through any hoops where we're taking flights from different airlines to max out our value from our points or otherwise. The flights were pretty straight to the point, being non-stop and very seamless. This redemption success really came from the opportune timing of the sale they had going on, and for us to be able to take advantage of the opportunity. Drop your email below, as I'm planning to start a newsletter where I can send out this type of information if there's something opportunistic or valuable or otherwise. Don't worry, I won't spam your inbox. But with that, let's keep it going. Let's move on to our hotels. I truly believe, assuming you're gonna be outside the majority of the day whilst you're traveling, when it comes to redeeming for a hotel room, unless if there's a special occasion or it happens to be a resort, or it's a room where you can fit X amount of people and that redemption makes sense, or some other unique selling point, I wouldn't really redeem for an extremely lavish room. I would just stick with something maybe that's centrally located, safe and sound, you can sleep well at night, there's management if you have any questions, and basically not spending more than you have to for a place that you're hardly gonna be in day to day. With that said, and coming to our hotels, out of the 7 nights, we stayed 4 nights at Best Western properties. In the US, Best Western to me is kind of in the middle between Wyndham, where you have your Super 8s, your Motel 6s, and between maybe the base levels of your Marriott, Hyatt, IHG, Hilton. For example, with IHG, you have your Holiday Inn, or with Marriott, you have your Spring Hill Suites. So it's kind of in the middle of these both in America. Outside of the US, I was shocked when I was looking at the Best Western properties online, and I was like, hey, let's redeem these points that I have with them in Paris. They say Best Western points are worth around 0.6 to 0.8 cents per point. So in English, that basically means to redeem a $100 room rate, you're looking at it costing around 12 to 17,000 points. In Paris, given maybe tourist timing and otherwise, the prices in US dollars after converting from euros was roughly around $250 per night. We stayed in Best Westerns the first 3 nights in Paris, and then the last night when we were in Paris again. There were 2 different properties. The first one was 28,000 points for each night, and then the last one was 32,000 points. This gives us a total of 116,000 Best Western points. In Paris, for each night, there was a city tax we had to pay, which cost around $6 to $7 US per night. If you break down the math, our points redemption kind of was at that 0.9 cents per point value, which is a smidge better than what is considered average. The way I got these Best Western points was essentially through 1 credit card sign-up bonus, and there's this information and more located here, but I'll give you a quick summary. Some quick context is that my status level with Best Western is Diamond Select, which is its highest tier. The way I got this is through status matching, where I have my IHG Premier card by Chase, which automatically gives you Platinum Elite status that maps to Best Western's Diamond Select. If you're interested, that full mapping table of which status maps to which Best Western status is in that video as well. There are 2 Best Western credit cards, and the one I have is the Best Western Premier, where the sign-up bonus was 80,000 points, and by spending $5,000 in a year cycle, you can get a bonus 40,000 points. So together, this is 120,000 points, which from there, if you take 116, there's still a few points left over, as well as more points that accrued through organic spend. This was Paris. And moving on to London, we stayed at a Hyatt Place, one of the lower rung considered in the Hyatt hierarchy, yet it was a great property, straight to the point, good location. And most importantly, what I want to mention is that although it was 3 nights we stayed there, I actually paid for 4. And this is why. Given the early morning we were arriving in London, we knew that, hey, we can wait till a standard check-in, or there's something we can do about it. And so I chose to essentially pay for the night prior as if we were there, but we weren't. But this way we wouldn't need to wait until a standard check-in. With these Hyatt redemptions, there was no taxes or fees or otherwise, it was purely points. And some context around status level, I'm Hyatt Explorist, which is 1 rung lesser than their highest of Globalist. On average, each night was around 250 USD, converting from pounds to dollars. And in terms of points, it was on average 10,000 Hyatt points. Typically, Hyatt points can be redeemed for around that 2 cents per point region. In our situation, it was 2.5 cents per point. so you got no complaints from my side. You can transfer points to Hyatt's program with cards such as the Chase Sapphire Reserve, Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Inc. Business Preferred, as well as the Bilt MasterCard by Wells Fargo. The way I got Explorer status with Hyatt wasn't by spending that many nights with them, but by doing a status challenge that the Bilt MasterCard by Wells Fargo had, where to my memory, if you do 10 nights within a certain time range, then you'll be getting that Explorer status, and if you do 20 in that same time range, then you'll be getting Globalist, which is the highest Hyatt has. I couldn't logically suffice that Globalist requirement by spending X amount of dollars with Hyatt to get that status, but I ended up getting Explorist, which is definitely beneficial. Here's a couple important points I want to share because I think they're supremely crucial and I wish I knew them before the fact. I've traveled to multiple destinations with multiple airlines, and this is the first time that this has happened to me in my life, and I was shocked. That redemption that was made to go from London to Paris, it was made, yet similar to when you buy, let's say, a ticket with American Airlines, you'll get an email saying like, hey, you booked it, and then a follow-up email saying, hey, your ticket's confirmed. So what had happened is I made the redemption, and then when I got to the literal ticket counter, they said, oh, okay, you're on standby. Being on standby equals not having an official ticket. And so it's like I redeemed my points, but I was never confirmed the ticket. This goes for both of us as we were traveling together. And I asked like, hey, how can this be? Why is this the case? The agent's response was pretty straightforward. It was like, hey, the companies oversell tickets on the airlines all the time. It's a very common practice. And this I was aware of. But for a ticket not to be confirmed, especially in an international itinerary, where let's say we had a connecting flight from that next destination, that would be a big problem to get on to that even further destination if that was the itinerary. The agent then said, hey, it's not a big deal. They got flights, every hour outside from London to Paris the whole day. So you'll get there eventually. If you got nothing better to do and just need to get from point A to point B, got some time to kill, I definitely understand. But in the grander scheme, this could definitely have been an issue. Hence, I wanted to share this experience. The second thing is the acceptance rate of American Express credit cards in Paris. It wasn't just a shop or two. It was quite universal that American Express isn't really taken similar to how Visa would be taken, quote unquote, everywhere. I leaned heavily on the Chase Sapphire Reserve, where you're getting 3x on dining as well as travel, as well as for miscellaneous expenses, the Capital One Venture X, where you're getting 2x venture miles on each and every dollar spent. And both of these are Visa Infinite cards, aka Visa, hence their acceptance was not an issue whatsoever. In London though, American Express, not an issue at all. For cash, if we wanted, we had our Charles Schwab debit cards where you get unlimited free ATM withdrawals worldwide. They reimburse any amount that's incurred at the end of the month or end of their statement cycle, one of those, but that's essentially what our game plan was if we needed any foreign currency, whether euro or pounds. Comment down below if you have any open questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if you want to know what I think the most interesting credit card in the world is, click over here. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.